Good morning, and welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual freethinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Karen Alvarez, your worship associate for this morning, and the service today will be led by Carrie Teague and other members of the Social and Environmental Justice Committee. There will be a few changes from our usual order, but we'll all do our best to stay together and on track and figure it out as we go. Thank you to everyone on this morning's worship team, also including music by Bill Mills, and religious education for children 3 and over by Pat and Kaya Mills. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the visitor's book in the entryway. And whether it's your first visit or your 1,000th, we are glad that you came. This service is also being live streamed to our YouTube channel. We will plan on continuing with hybrid worship services, so you can join us each week here in person, on Zoom, or later on YouTube. To help us connect better with our friends watching from home, please turn around and give a wave to the camera. At the end of the service, we will invite our friends on Zoom to turn on their cameras and return the wave. I have a few announcements to share with you today. To help make the most of our time together, event details can be found on the printed announcements in the back of the room or in the weekly email. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, please fill out the card on or near your chair. We invite you to bring them forward and place them in the basket after Bill rings the chime and begins to play. You can also come forward to drop a pebble in the water if you have a joy or sorrow that you prefer not to share. The annual meeting of the Congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, that's us, has been called by the Board of Trustees. This meeting will be held on Sunday, June 7th, following the worship service in the sanctuary and also on Zoom. Childcare will be provided. For the blooming season, May and June, the theme is solidarity. The Solidarity Spirituality packets can be found by clicking the link in the weekly news or on the website under the Connect tab, or printed copies are available on the white shelves in the back of the sanctuary. For additional copies, contact Scarlett, the church administrator. Today at 4 p.m., there will be a People's Parliament and community meal with FLX Justice Partnership at St. Mark's Church in Penn, as well as a rally at 6 o'clock at Geneva City Hall to stand up for our immigrant neighbors targeted by ICE. Eli's Band Furniture will have a fundraising concert to support FLX Pride here at UUCC this Friday, May 29th at 7 p.m. $5 donations are gratefully accepted at the door by cash or Venmo. The Social and Environmental Justice Committee May meeting has been moved to Sunday, May 31st, following the worship service. This will be the last month of the $15 short-sleeve t-shirt Side with Love sale. Don't miss your opportunity to get one. We will be wearing our Side with Love tees at Pride events this summer. Ordering information can be found by clicking the link in the weekly news and on the white shelves in the back of the sanctuary. Do we have any other announcements? As we prepare to be fully together, I remind you to silence your phones and devices. We now enter a space of worship, and now is the time to bring forward any joys and sorrows or come to drop a pebble.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The worship service today, Rooted in Solidarity, was originally written and delivered by Reverend Dr. Everett Howe. It tells 8 stories from our Unitarian, Universalist, and UU histories. Stories about how ordinary people showed up in very different ways and in particular contexts to side with love and show up for justice. It is a wonderful service to deliver on Memorial Day weekend, a time when we remember people who have risked their own lives on behalf of others. I do want to mention, for those of you here today with small children, that there are some hot topics in the stories that we are going to tell: slavery, the Holocaust, violence, and suppression of reproductive rights. We will be singing the kids downstairs after the second story, but that won't spare them the Holocaust. There's a slideshow to go along with each story, but I promise I didn't put anything graphic in those. Many thanks to Reverend Dr. Everett Howe for preparing and editing this transcript, and to all of the prophetic UU leaders quoted in this service. We give thanks for their gifts and their generosity of spirit. The next part of the service is a responsive invocation, which are fancy words for I'm going to say something, and then I will gesture to all of you, and you'll respond by reading what is on that screen up front. Our Unitarian Universalist faith has grown from seeds planted by our Unitarian and Universalist ancestors. From them, we've inherited a legacy of courage and compassion, finding new ways to live our values. These are the words of Reverend Elizabeth Wynne. As Unitarian Universalists, our journey is to transform the big and the small, to transform ourselves and to transform the world. Universalism means no one is outside of the circle of love and no one is disposable. No one is outside the circle of love. No one is disposable. You nailed it. Good job. We stubbornly seek out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what. Interdependence means none of us is truly free until we all are all free, and our thriving is bound up in the earth's thriving. None of us is truly free until we are all free. We struggle for liberation from the violence of white supremacy, sexism, ableism, classism, and homophobia. Our covenants mean we make promises to our communities to honor love and justice above all else. We make promises to honor love and justice above all else. And now it's time for our first hymn.
Our opening hymn today is number 126 in the big hymnal, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Please rise as you're willing and able and join us to sing.
Story 1, The Sharps. I'm going to invite the first readers to come up. To begin our first story, let's remember one of our beliefs. No one is outside the circle of love, and no one is disposable. In September 1938, Nazi Germany invaded northern Czechoslovakia. Thousands of refugees, Jews and others fearing Nazi occupation, fled south, many ending up in Prague.
In January 1939, the Reverend Waitstill Sharp and his wife Martha could have turned down the request from the American Unitarian Association to leave their children and home and head to Prague to aid persecuted people. An isolationist America was not yet at war and reluctant to open its door to refugees. 17 others had declined the mission, but the Sharps said yes. Just weeks after their arrival in Czechoslovakia, the couple watched Hitler's troops march into Prague. They were shadowed by the Gestapo agents. Their offices were ransacked, and they had to burn files to protect refugees' identities. The young couple narrowly escaped arrest by returning home in August.
A year later, the Sharps returned to a second mission. They secured a trainload of condensed milk in great demand to feed refugee babies in southern France. Working with various aid networks, the Sharps rescued an estimated 125 people, Jews, political dissidents, and others under threat as fascist armies spread across Europe. They also helped get food and other assistance to hundreds more in urgent need.
Story 2, The Chalice. Readers, we begin our second story by remembering another one of our beliefs. We make promises to honor love and justice above all else.
By the mid-1940s, the strength of Nazi Germany had grown, taking severe tolls on human life throughout Europe. Not enough was being done to assist the thousands of people attempting to flee the danger of Nazi occupation. Inspired by the Reverend Waitstill and Martha Sharp's courageous mission, the Unitarian Service Committee was established in 1940 to continue humanitarian service. Its commissioner was Reverend Charles Rind Joy.
Lisbon was the only port open in Europe, and millions of refugees were pouring in. From his headquarters in Lisbon, Reverend Joy oversaw a secret network of couriers and agents helping to provide travel documents that would allow these refugees to escape to freedom. But the Unitarian Service Committee was an unknown organization. That put them at a disadvantage. Venturing to trust across barriers of language, nationality, and faith could be a life or death decision.
Joy needed an official symbol for the papers issued by the Service Committee. He wrote, "When a document may keep a man out of jail, give him standing with governments and police, it is important that it look important." He asked Hans Deutsch, an Austrian refugee artist, to create one. The result was essentially the flaming chalice as we now know it. And like our faith itself, the flaming chalice symbol has evolved over time.
The chalice, as a two-dimensional drawing, eventually transformed into the object used in worship, thanks to our religious exploration programs. Curricula in the late 70s encouraged the children to make chalices in different media. Eventually, those chalices morphed into objects that could be lit. The first documented uses of chalices in the main sanctuary are from Sundays on which the children and youth led worship and demonstrated their practice to the adult congregation.
Our chalice lighting words come from Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on this journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another to get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church and its work. Each week, we would like to spotlight a group or committee and thank them for their gift of time. This week, the group is Gardens. People interested in finding out more can reach out to Lynn Cronus. 1/4 of our plate collection for the blooming season will go to our service partner, Family Promise of Ontario County, who empowering families threatened with or experiencing homelessness to achieve sustainable independence through a community-based response, and are working with their partners to open Ontario County's first ever homeless shelter for families. You can give to this morning's offering by placing cash or a check into the basket or by one of the options on the screen. Please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. We now gratefully accept the offering. Hold on, I have to reorder. Okay, we're good. Okay, so we've got some joys and sorrows, most of it's joys. So, an anonymous, which I also second, joy for the mud-free parking lot as we came in today. So much better than it used to be. Ken is liking to share that after 8 years of study at Kansas State University, his great niece is now the credible Dr. Abby. Matt is feeling thankful and joyful for health and for the support of family, friends, community, and strangers during a difficult time. So this is the ordering part. The first one says, my dad is super cool and people voted for him. And there's some pictures of unicorns. Not sure what that's related to, but anyway, I thought I'd share it. And Brandon would like to say that he is now on the school board. And lastly, we are sharing that a small family had a great time at bingo with the drag queen, Miss Kasha Davis, yesterday. So awesome. And apparently Lova has a sorrow, not sure what that's about. So I'm gonna now drop a stone for these and all the joys and sorrows left in the silence of our hearts, and let's all together, we
We are with you.
And at this time, if there are any children who would like to attend religious education, please go downside. They're already down.
Story 3, Abolition. We begin our third story by remembering that none of us is truly free until we are all free.
In the 1800s, white Unitarian Universalists had inconsistent responses to what we now recognize as the evil of slavery. The country's bitter divisions grew when the Fugitive Slave Act was passed in 1850. Some Unitarians and Universalists stayed on the sidelines, while others became active abolitionists. Unitarian Reverend Theodore Parker was an abolitionist, a leader member of the Boston Vigilance Committee, an underground group that helped hundreds of enslaved people find freedom.
In 1854, a 19-year-old enslaved person named Anthony Burns escaped from slavery in Virginia and fled to Boston, where he was arrested and held at the courthouse. A crowd of 5,000 assembled at Boston's Faneuil Hall, where Theodore Parker told them, "I love peace, but there is a means and there is an end. Liberty is the end, and sometimes peace is not the means toward it." Meanwhile, members of Boston's black community were meeting nearby and rushed to the courthouse in an attempt to rescue Burns. Hundreds of white abolitionists ran from Faneuil Hall to help them. An estimated 2,000 anti-slavery protesters mobbed Court Square that Friday night and tried, unsuccessfully, to free Burns.
The United States was built on a legacy of slavery, racism, and oppression that continues to take new and ever-changing forms. Today, 172 years after the Boston slave riot, Unitarian Universalists bear witness to the systematic devaluing of black lives. We commit ourselves to dismantling systems of white supremacy, which is an institutionalized cultural pattern reaching far beyond any single incident or person.
As our service continues, we'll respond to some stories by singing, and each time we'll change the pronouns in "there is love" to remind us of how our love is directed within, among, and beyond ourselves.
The music and the words are on the screen. I'm going to play it through once, and then we'll sing.
Story 4, The Secret Six. We remember again that none of us is truly free until we are all free.
In the years before Kansas was admitted to statehood in 1861, there was a violent conflict about whether slavery would be legal in the new state. John Brown, who had been born in the territory that became Kansas, was fiercely opposed to slavery. He believed that violence was justified in this righteous cause because white people would never willingly, peacefully put an end to slavery.
In 1857 and again in 1859, John Brown came to Boston to seek financial support from local abolitionists. His strongest and richest supporters came to be known as the Secret Six. 5 of them were Unitarians. 2, Theodore Parker and Thomas Wentworth Higginson, were Unitarian ministers. The Secret Six helped fund and supply John Brown's 1859 raid on the Federal Armory at Harper's Ferry.
In the words of Reverend Carl Gregg, we can today see the ways in which the Secret Six were naive in supporting John Brown's raid at Harper's Ferry. At the same time, the Secret Six did risk their comfort and privilege to support Brown's armed insurrection because they had become to believe that nonviolent legislative means of ending slavery had no chance of succeeding. The historical consensus is that Brown's raid, even though it failed, did catalyze the movement towards civil war.
Dismantling oppression is not easy. The systems of white supremacy, sexism, ableism, classism, and homophobia don't want to be changed. They're powerful. They fight back when we attempt to find another way. How far would you go to set other people free? It's your question to answer. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition will not provide the answer for you. Instead, Unitarian Universalism asks us to engage your free and responsible search for truth, for meaning, and for justice as we hold the tension between the world as it is and as we wish it to be. Story 5. The Women of the Unitarian Society of New Haven. Some of our stories of Unitarian and Universalist justice makers are about how injustice, the diminishment of a person's dignity, inherent worth, and autonomy impact our most personal choices. We begin our next story by remembering that we make promises to honor love and justice above all else.
Unitarian Universalists believe that freedom includes the right to make decisions about our own bodies. We believe that people who can get pregnant always have the right to make decisions about their own reproductive health. In 1879, the state of Connecticut banned the sale and use of birth control. Under this law, which stood for over 80 years, a woman in Connecticut could not legally purchase any form of birth control. In 1961, Estelle Griswold put Connecticut's ban on birth control to the test by opening a birth control clinic in New Haven. This simple act of civil disobedience resulted in the police shutting down the clinic and arresting Estelle Griswold. Deborah Weiner, a UU religious educator, recalls.
My mother was one of the founders of the Unitarian Society of New Haven. She, along with a bunch of activist Unitarian women, were leaders with Planned Parenthood of New Haven. During the time the clinic was closed, the board was determined to continue dispensing birth control. They set up in our basement with the windows cardboarded up, typewriters set up, boxes of diaphragms and gel, and birth control pills everywhere. I was warned not to tell anyone what was going on. I was told that it could result in my mom getting arrested, so I kept quiet and the operation continued. When the Griswold versus Connecticut ruling came down from the Supreme Court in 1965, there was a huge celebration in New Haven. My mother and her friends, who were almost all UUs, were heroes because they carried on, even when the police tried to stop birth control from being available.
Our bodies are sacred. No matter how many bodies bear scars from misogyny, encoded into law, from violence, from lack of access to medical care, women's bodies are sacred, and so are the choices offered by reproductive freedom. Story 6, the Clergy Consultation Service. Unitarian Universalists know that life comes with hard choices, and we believe that pregnant people can be trusted to make hard choices, including the decision to terminate a pregnancy.
Even after the Griswold v. Connecticut ruling in 1965, it was difficult for women to get birth control in many areas of the country. It was illegal and often deadly to seek an abortion.
In 1967, an unlikely group formed to help women obtain safe abortions, the Clergy Consultation Service, an underground network of rabbis and ministers, including UU ministers.
The charge for aiding and abetting an illegal abortion was a $1,000 fine and up to a year in prison. But the Clergy Consultation Service operated out in the open, says one minister, sending the message that we were choosing to defy the law in order to adhere to a higher law.
By 1973, roughly 1,400 clergy members across the country had helped hundreds of thousands of women access safe abortions. Having clergy take such risks helped to change social attitudes about abortion. And the case that became Roe v. Wade started in Texas with encouragement from Unitarian Universalists, especially the Women's Alliance of the First Unitarian Church of Dallas.
Today, we affirm this commitment. In the words of Reverend Lisa Sargent, the movement for reproductive rights, for gay and lesbian rights, for civil rights, for immigrant rights, for human rights, cannot be separated. Each of them is fundamentally about ensuring that every person has control over their own life. Will you again enter into the spirit of meditation as we sing together? Story 7, AIDS. Our seventh story shows us again that no one is outside the circle of love and no one is disposable.
In 1982, the CDC created the term AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, to describe an infection that was killing people. As the AIDS epidemic grew to claim the lives of tens of thousands each year, it became clear that AIDS was moving with particular vengeance through the gay community. The response from both secular and religious voices was silent or outright condemnation. Many churches refused to hold funerals for gay men, and their own families would turn away from them.
Unitarian Universalist ministers were among the first clergy who entered the pastoral breach, grieving with and tending to the dying. One of them, Reverend Kim Crawford Harvey, recalls,
I conducted the early memorial services with the clear insight that the first victims of a massive shipwreck were just washing ashore, though I couldn't possibly have imagined the magnitude of the loss. Time and again, we stood facing the ocean and scattered the ashes of our dead into the wind.
Harvey remembers sitting in silence with a dying parishioner. Listen, he said, breaking the silence. In all this madness, even if it kills every single one of us, and there's no one left to tell the stories, it matters that we love each other well.
We are left to tell the stories. It matters that we continue to love each other well, that we make promises to honor love and justice. Please sing again as we remember the love that lives inside each of us and which continues to call us.
There
And our last story, story 8, responding to ICE, Minneapolis. In our final story today, we recognize yet again that none of us is truly free until we are all free.
On Sunday, March 7, 1965, Alabama state troopers attacked 600 unarmed protesters as they walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge outside Selma in an attack that became known as Bloody Sunday. The following day, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called on clergy across the nation to come to Selma to witness the brutality and to bring national attention to the violence and injustice there. In his call to clergy, Dr. King wrote,
"No American is without responsibility. The people of Selma will struggle on for the soul of the nation, but it is fitting that all America help to bear the burden. I call, therefore, on clergy of all faiths, representative of every part of the country, to join me for a minister's march. In this way, all America will testify to the fact that the struggle in Selma is for the survival of democracy everywhere in our land."
The struggle for the survival of democracy continues today. In January, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known by their acronym ICE, came in force to Minneapolis and St. Paul to conduct sweeping raids on the Somali Americans and others. They have terrorized the Twin Cities. When faced with nonviolent protesters and observers, they've responded with pepper spray, tear gas, and bullets. Renee Good, a beloved community member and mother, was murdered by ICE agents as she followed directions to leave an area where ICE was operating. In response to the escalating violence, faith leaders have once again been called to witness.
In 1965, clergy responded to Dr. King's call. Today, clergy are again responding to the call. UU ministers and other religious leaders from across the country came to Minneapolis to bear witness to the ongoing injustice. As Side with Love writes,
Our faith calls us to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, to side with love, and to work for justice. We go to Minneapolis because when our neighbors are under siege, when mothers are dying from fear in their own homes, living our principal demands, we show up. We go to bear witness, to use our bodies and covenant to say, not here, not in our name.
Not all of us can go to Minneapolis to witness, but our response to all injustice must be as a community, not as individuals. No one of us is powerful enough to fight the oppressions we are experiencing, but together we can respond powerfully, some of us witnessing in person, others supporting at a distance, all of us answering the call. I'm now going to read a prayer by the Reverend Allie Casey Bell, and afterwards it will be followed by a short silent meditation. Reverend Allie Casey Bell offers this prayer: Spirit of love and justice, because we know these two must be held together if we are to get where we're going. Be with us now, in a time when so much is changing, unimaginable, horrific, multiplying by the day. Give us the strength not to turn our heads, but to lift our voices, our bodies, our very selves, to keep bending the moral arc toward thriving, toward equality, toward care for all. Help us examine and act on what we are learning, not only about the world, but about ourselves, about how we shape, echo, and amplify the noise of division. Turn our voices, turn our habits, Turn our silence until what once divided us becomes a song of resistance. Settle us out of our minds and into our hearts, so we may release whatever keeps us disconnected from one another. We cry out, "How long?" And we answer back, "Now," and in the past, and into the future, because justice does not take a break from tyranny. Fascism cannot change the face of compassion. Equity will not surrender to the false comfort of the inequitable. Let us remember that hope has feathers, that it takes wing not because it is naive, but because it is present, active, and alive. And let us rest not in complacency, but in truth. We are survivors. We are thrivers, and we will not stop until our work is done. Amen. Ashi. Blessed be.
Our closing hymn this morning is in the teal hymnal, number 1017, Building a New Way. Please join us as you're willing and able, and rise and join us to sing.
We've got a little bit more call and response here, or at least I talk and then everyone responds. Again, the words of Reverend Elizabeth Wynne. Unitarian Universalism is for those who have seen the arc bend towards justice and those who doubt it ever will bend, but know we must organize as if our life depends on it anyway. Some theologies say that only some people are saved. From those theologies flow a world where people are criminalized for their identities, for being Muslim, transgender, Black, undocumented. Our theology says that we are all saved, and salvation is what we strive to build now for each other. So we resist any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity. We know that now on earth is our chance to create heaven. We know that love crosses, borders and prison walls, lives in queer families and disability justice organizers, thrives among trans young people and working class elders. We extinguish this chalice with gratitude for our works, the ancestors who taught us to be brave in creating a fair and loving world.
The flame is now ours, as is their work. We side with love, we work for justice, and we carry the flame forward. Happy Memorial Day.